Welcome to Canton Confidential. We are getting closer to seating a jury in the Karen Reed murder retrial. Thanks for joining us. I'm Glenn Jones.
I'm JC Monahan. One juror previously selected was dropped, but 4 additional jurors were picked today. This was day 3 of jury selection. 10 jurors in total have now been seated for this high-profile retrial.
Also tonight, a story that is still breaking. Reed has now taken her double jeopardy appeal to the nation's highest court, the U.S. Supreme Court. She's been trying to get 2 of the charges she's facing dismissed.
And at this hour, the Canton Police Audit Committee is holding a meeting, their first since the results of that audit were released. And while the audit found police made a number of errors in the early stages of the John O'Keefe investigation, they didn't find anything consistent with a conspiracy. We're going to go live to Canton as that meeting gets underway.
Once again, there's a lot going on, but we begin tonight with the latest developments inside of Norfolk Superior Court in Denham.
NBC 10's John Maroney has a closer look at the process of selecting a jury.
Anything? It is going faster than anticipated.
Karen Reed and company leaving court without comment after another day of jury selection. She's pleaded not guilty to hitting and killing her boyfriend John O'Keefe with her SUV, leaving the Boston police officer to die in a blizzard.
Ms. Reed starts this trial presumed to be innocent. The fact that she was arrested or that she was indicted is not proof of anything.
It was deja vu as Judge Beverly Cannoni instructed about 40 potential jurors on the case, the law, and their role as fact finders. Each filled out a 3-page jury questionnaire, which included questions about everything from the defendant to law enforcement to media coverage. NBC 10 legal analyst Michael Coyne.
It's surprising that so many are able to put aside what they know and at least promise the court that they will only resolve the case on the evidence submitted during the second trial.
The jurors in waiting were polled with similar results to earlier pools. 93% of them said they've heard of the case. 53% say they formed an opinion, and 10% say they had a bias either for or against Karen Reed.
What is surprising is that roughly 10% of them have been saying they don't know anything about the case.
The jurors are questioned at sidebar by the judge, prosecution, and defense. The process is slow but moves, with potential jurors from the previous day returning to be questioned.
I think the logistics are working out very well.
The 10 jurors selected are split right down the middle, 5 men and 5 women. Jury selection resumes tomorrow morning. In Dedham, John Maroney, NBC 10 Boston.
There's a new billboard paying tribute to John O'Keefe in his hometown of Braintree. The billboard can be spotted right above 93 near the Braintree split. It features, as you see, a picture of Officer O'Keefe, as well as the phrase, "Remember him." Now, this week, the long-awaited audit of the Canton Police Department was released. It was prompted by the death of Officer O'Keefe.
The audit found a series of crime scene errors in the early stages of the investigation, and right now the town's police audit committee is meeting for the first time since the report's release. NBC 10's Michael Rosenfield joins us live from Canton with a chance to set the scene for us. Michael.
Yeah, Glenn, the report and audit into the Canton Police Department was just released earlier this week, but tonight it's being formally presented to the Canton Police Audit Committee. That meeting just getting underway as we speak right here inside Canton Town Hall. That audit took a look at the police department, including a review of the Karen Reed investigation. The company hired to conduct the audit criticized police for gathering evidence in the Reed case using plastic Solo cups in a paper shopping bag, not photographing John O'Keefe's body in the snow before it was removed by paramedics. And police should have remained on the scene until a secondary search for evidence took place later in the day. On the other hand, the audit found no indication that police tampered with any evidence or tried to frame Reed for her boyfriend's death. Still, there were practices, protocols, and procedures that need drastic improvement.
The biggest thing for any law enforcement agency is having the training and the resources available to be a professional agency. And the report was pretty clear about the needs, from detectives' needs right down to sergeants, right down to patrol officer needs. But supplying resources and not the training is still not all the way there yet.
So there will be no public comment tonight. Instead, a special meeting has been set up for that. That'll take place Saturday afternoon over at Canton High School. That's when the public will get a chance to ask questions. about the audit. We're live in Canton. Michael Rosenfield, NBC 10 Boston.
All right, Michael, we want to bring in attorney Morgietta Dourcier now to talk more about this case. Joining us in studio, what just happened is Karen Read has now taken her double jeopardy case to the Supreme Court. What does that mean?
So first of all, we're not surprised, or we shouldn't be
Right.
surprised. She and her team are doing everything that they can to protect her rights. So essentially, this is the same argument that they've been making all along since those jurors came out. I think what's important to remember is that the Supreme Court actually has to vote first on whether or not they're going to accept to hear this case. So they need at least 4 of the 9 justices. That vote takes place, I think actually there's 2 sessions happening this month, and then it could take a few months to get on the docket for briefing and scheduling and things of that nature. But not surprised that this is a move that they made.
Well, let's think this all the way.
Do you think they'll pick it up?
I don't know. I don't know. It's definitely a unique set of circumstances, and this entire case has a lot of unique
circumstances. Yeah.
So it may be interesting to them to review this issue, right? And so if they do pick it up, I wouldn't be surprised.
And if they do, does Judge Canoni wait to start her retrial until the U.S. Supreme Court has decided about its appeal?
Yes. At that point, if they fully accept it and they're going to put it on their docket, and the jury has been sworn in, she would have to wait.
Well, in the meantime, we are trying to find a jury. So let's talk a little bit about the selection process so far. We have seated 10 jurors so far. Let's look at how it breaks down. Most jurors say that they've heard about the case. 53% formed an opinion, 10% were biased for or against Karen Read. On day 2, 89% of potential jurors said they knew about the case, 44% formed an opinion, 16% some kind of bias, and now today 93% of the jury pool said they knew about the case, and then you can see the rest of the numbers there. So, Morgietta, how surprised are you about that breakdown of numbers in the jury pool and that we're at 10 already?
I'm a little surprised, I'm not going to lie. I think that what's surprising is the number of people who have heard the case and are still willing to move forward and have a unbiased opinion about the facts that they're hearing. I think that's great because jury selection really is supposed to be just about the facts that you're hearing. And I think it's refreshing to know that the people of the Commonwealth, you can't avoid it at this point, but we have enough people that are, you know what, I've heard about it, but I'm willing to do my civic duty and sit on this jury and be unbiased. So I think it's great.
Let's compare this time to the last trial. So if you take a look at where we stand, the jury selection process, after 3 days last time, we had 12 jurors picked. Right now we have 10. So you can say the process moving a little slower this time, but as you just mentioned, Morgietta, faster than I think most of us had anticipated. For the entire jury selection process, I didn't know this. You get 16 vetoes on each side. Basically, you don't have to give a reason why you don't want someone. I don't want Glenn. And the judge has to say, okay.
Yes, yes.
I don't know if they've used any of those.
I don't believe they've used any of those, and they're called peremptory challenges. And so you can use a peremptory challenge pretty much for anything. The color of someone's hair, the way that they look at you, the way that they're not looking at you. And then you have other challenges for cause. So if you have a direct reason that someone shouldn't sit on the jury, they're related to you or things of that nature, you can use those at length if you need to. But I don't believe any of the preemptory challenges have been used yet, which is good.
No, it's going for all of the publicity.
Absolutely.
I mean, we're moving right along.
I think all of us have been a little bit surprised. All right, this case has attracted protesters near the courthouse. So Judge Beverly Canoni reinstated a buffer zone, even extended it. One of the jurors from the first trial told us that he could hear protesters during the deliberations. Take a listen.
We were able to hear them usually during lunchtime, during the recess, and when Karen or her team or somebody, right, of substantial, but usually it's Karen coming in, they were cheering. It wasn't so distracting for us, but it became more apparent as we were doing the deliberations clearly on the last day.
As an officer of the court, when you hear that, do you think that protesting somehow taints the process? And has Judge Beverly Canoni found the right way to mitigate that?
I would say, as an officer of the court, it can get a little annoying because you want all of the evidence to be focused just on the 4 walls in that room. Judge Canoni, as all judges say, don't do outside research. Just focus on what you hear inside of this courtroom. And how can you not if there are crowds of people just outside, So it can get a little distracting and a little unnerving because you want it to be fair and impartial. And I think that, it's a good point to be raised.
All right. Well, you should know that there is expected to be a hearing tomorrow where some protesters say that their First Amendment rights are being infringed and they want to be allowed to get closer to the courthouse. All right, let's take some viewer questions now. We've been receiving a lot of them over the last couple of days since jury selection began. Most of them are related to the jury. Let's start with this question from Megan. She wants to know, will the jury be sequestered? Of course, they were not last time. Should they be this time?
I think they should be this time. I think that there's going to be a lot of pressure regardless who gets picked. And I think it's all about preserving their integrity and their privacy. If they decide to come forward after, like other jurors did in the first case, that's their choice. But give them the opportunity to do their job. I think that's the most important thing here.
Can that happen during the trial?
It shouldn't happen during the trial,
okay.
and it's not supposed to happen during the trial because the jury should be able to see the evidence, see how witnesses testify, see the cadence of the room. So that should happen. I don't know if it'll happen, but it'd be a really, really good idea. It'll probably never happen, but
yeah, it'd be unpopular among
it'd
the
be
jury,
really unpopular. But
Morgiana, there have been more firsts in this trial.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
So let's not rule anything out.
Exactly.
All right, a lot of national attention. We've been talking about that. That brings us to our next viewer question from Sharon. She asks, why didn't they move the trial to another court in another area because of all of this publicity? Why is it still in the Dedham courthouse?
Because you still have to have a jury of her peers. And at this point, whether you had it in Norfolk County, Suffolk County, Plymouth County, everyone has, unfortunately, heard about this case in one way, shape, or form. Sure. I think we're trying to create the cleanest jury pool that we can, and having it in Norfolk County really makes sense. They haven't really raised any issues not to have it in Norfolk County, but I think you really can't escape it no matter what county you put the case in.
Agree.
All right, Morgiana, we covered a lot of ground. Thank you very much.
Of course.
If you have any questions about this trial, feel free to send them our way. All you need to do is email us at the address you see on your screen, canton.confidential@nbcuni.com. We will answer as many questions as we can.
And we appreciate it. Remember, NBC 10 Boston, your source for everything related to the Karen Read trial. Don't forget to tune in weeknights at 7 for a full recap of the day's court proceedings right here on Canton Confidential.